Are you really not taking any responsibility for the multiple red flags that were brought to the attention of the Broward Sheriff's Office about this shooter before the incident, whether it was people near him, close to him, calling the police on him?
Jake, I could only take responsibility for what I knew about. I exercised my due diligence. I've given amazing leadership to this agency.
Amazing leadership?
I've worked.
The sheriff has to go. He has to resign. I don't see any way he can credibly function in that role anymore.
Going into these deputies received the training they needed.
Maybe you measure somebody's leadership by whether or not they protect the community. In this case, you've listed 23 incidents before the shooting involving the shooter, and still nothing was done to keep guns out of his hands, to make sure that the school was protected, to make sure you were keeping an eye on him. Your deputy at the school failed. I don't understand how you can sit there and claim amazing leadership.
The new governor taking swift action on day 4 in office.
There's a new sheriff in town.
As the Broward sheriff is suspended.
Governor Ron Desantis essentially following through on a campaign promise, ousting Broward Sheriff Scott Israel.
In his executive order, the governor flat out saying Israel failed the people of Broward County many times, but especially during the mass shootings in Parkland and at the Fort Lauderdale airport.
Governor Ron DeSantis got right to the point when he arrived at BSO headquarters.
I have issued an executive order suspending Scott Israel as the sheriff of Broward County.
His reasons for removal were laid out in this 6-page executive order, including the sheriff's policy that a deputy, quote, may enter an active shooter situation, and the fact that prior to the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, the sheriff's office had 21 interactions with the shooter.
At the school failed. I don't understand how you can sit there and claim amazing leadership.
Jake, on 16 of those cases, our deputies did everything right. Our deputies have done amazing things.
That's right. Scott Israel's attorneys filed this lawsuit here in court in Broward County this morning. In it, they argue that Governor DeSantis overstepped his authority when he removed Sheriff Israel, and that this was all about politics.
This was about politics, not about Parkland.
A defiant Scott Israel vowed to fight his suspension, and today filed a lawsuit against the governor. In it, Israel says the governor exceeded his authority by suspending him and was merely keeping a campaign promise.
We believe that the removal of Sheriff Israel was improper.
Attorney Stuart Kaplan represents Israel. Kaplan is asking a Broward County judge to determine that Governor Ron DeSantis' decision to remove Israel from office in early January infringed on the rights of Broward voters.
Our right to vote is such an inherent fundamental right that you don't want to take away the democratic process from the individual voters.
And beyond that,
I also suspended Scott Israel as the sheriff of Broward.
Kaplan argues that DeSantis' comments in this week's State of the State address were out of line. DeSantis spoke about removing Israel and replacing him with Sheriff Gregory Toney.
Now, why any senator would want to thumb his nose at the Parkland families and eject Sheriff Toney, who's doing a great job and has made history as the first African-American sheriff in the history of Broward, is beyond me.
His comments are so reprehensible.
Kaplan believes the comments were akin to tainting the jury pool because Israel has also appealed his suspension to the Florida Senate.
Other than that one deputy, do you think that if the Broward Sheriff's Office had done things differently, this shooting might not have happened?
Listen, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, O.J. Simpson would still be in the record books.
I don't know what that means. There's 17 dead people, and there's a whole long list of things your department could have done differently.
I gave him a gun. I gave him a badge. I gave him the training. If he didn't have the heart to go in, that's not my responsibility.
That's some leader.
They will be coming to town to do an independent after-action lessons learned report. We understand everything wasn't done perfectly.
Scott Israel is out.
It was a 9-7 vote right down party lines where the Senate Rules Committee will now recommend that Scott Israel be removed from his position as Broward County Sheriff. After nearly 2 hours of public comment, senators brought the committee meeting to a vote.
By your vote, the Rules Committee will recommend to the President that the evidence supports the executive order of suspension by the governor and that Mr. Scott Israel be removed from the office of sheriff of Broward County.
A decision leaving Parkland parents optimistic for a decision senators will have to make Wednesday.
It's definitely going to help form the opinion for the Senate.
The right decision got made up there today. Sheriff Israel has been removed.
18-year-olds should never have a rifle. An 18-year-old kid should not have a rifle. 18-year-old kid, they're not adults yet. They're in high school. These kids should not have a rifle. Automatic rifles should be outlawed forever. And anybody who says different, I don't know about other people, but Emma and I, we're calling BS on that.
I'm sorry, but he's such a blowhard. I mean, the sheriff had to know that automatic weapons that he referenced in that soundbite were banned by the feds years ago. And that the NRA does not advocate for legalizing them, Sheriff. You got to know that, or you shouldn't be in that job at all.
I am your voice.
The Senate, I think, handled it well. I think the Parkland families, really, they've been through a lot, and I think it was a relief, and I think they were very satisfied with the vote. Obviously, I felt that needed to be done. The majority of the Senate felt it needed to be done. But, we move on now, and, we're going to continue to do the people's business. I wish it didn't take this long, but it did. And so now we move ahead and going on to the next issues, working with a great bunch of people and continuing to push forward on a lot of great stuff.